Welcome to the Spirit Room. This podcast is a gathering place for people in search of personal growth and life's higher meaning. I'm your host, Mike Consul. I also invite you to spend time on the Spirit Room website, where you'll find headlines about religion, spirituality, psychology, and the New Age movement. Just go to thespiritroom.org. So we begin with an observation about our relationship to God. In my experience, people who believe in God are divided roughly into two categories. One category being the religionists, who believe that we are separate from God. The other category, the spiritualists, who believe that we are one with God, that we are actually embedded in God. I consider myself a member of that second category, the belief that we are one with God and fully embedded in God, and that we are part of the mosaic that is the life force of the cosmos. And it's been my observation that religionists tend to look at that viewpoint as sacrilegious, that somehow we are besmirching God by saying that we are one with God or a part of God. Just a few weeks ago, I attended a dinner that was put on by a group of Lutherans. A really sweet group of people, had really interesting conversation. There was one woman there named Lynn, and I got into this very conversation with her, and she said very firmly, "I am not God." Well, you know what? I'm not humanity, but I am a part of humanity. I'm a very small fragment of the sum total of humanity. But the analogy that I use with her is, every cell of your body is a part of you. And you can take any cell in your body, take a cell from your beating heart. You can put that on a slide under an electron microscope and you can see that it is a living cell. And you can take the DNA from that cell and you can prove beyond any doubt that that cell is Lynn. It's a part of Lynn. Now that cell has no agency by itself. It can't accomplish anything by itself. It only has agency or any kind of power when it is united with all the billions and billions of other cells that make up that person. This is true for me, it's true for any human being, it's true for any living thing. Now the big difference being that, of course, we are finite, we have X number of cells, and when we talk about God or the Holy Spirit or the Divine Mother or Father, whatever reference you want to make to God, we are talking about infinity, something that is infinite and something that is all-encompassing. But I don't understand why people think that somehow we degrade God by saying that we are a part of God, that we are embedded in God. People who share my viewpoint are certainly not suggesting that we are a God or a demigod or have the greatness of God. Only that we have that spark of divinity. Only that we are a part of something very glorious and grand. And that is what gives us value. That is what connects us. And frankly, for me, the idea of being separate from God and being somehow removed from God and having to travel to another dimension, to be part of God, to be not even part of God, to just be in the presence of God. That's all I can ever do, is be in the presence of God. Never one with God. That whole vision lacks the intimacy, the spiritual intimacy that I think people long for. I want to give you another analogy. I got this analogy years ago from a guru. I was reading a book he had written. I don't even remember his name, and I don't remember his spiritual tradition, whether it was Taoism or Hinduism or Zen Buddhism. But I sure remember the analogy. He talked about the raindrop and the ocean. And his point was this: a raindrop falls through the sky, and just to add my own element to this analogy, we could look at the descent of the raindrop falling from a cloud down to the ocean, that travel path as our life as a human being. But what the guru said was that when that raindrop hits the ocean, is it still a raindrop or is it now the ocean? All of a sudden, that raindrop is completely indistinguishable from the ocean. It's a pretty beautiful vision if you think about spirit that way, and how when we pass on, we actually can become indistinguishable from God, to again be embedded, deeply embedded in that infinite divine, creative spirit. I have no interest in separation from God. And I don't think the fact that I believe being one with God debases God in any manner, shape, or form. And I also think that viewpoint is consistent with what we've learned from science, from physics, that all is one, that God is in fact the purest form of energy and that all matter is made of energy. And energy in its purest form is light, which is consistent with religious scriptures that have been written all over the world in all kinds of different traditions. That's it for episode number 1. I invite your feedback. Just go to thespiritroom.org, scroll down just a bit, and you'll see an email form there to fill out. I'd be interested to know what your own perspective on this subject is. This is my counsel. God bless.